I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line. And we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
A lot of people disagreed with the notion that Trump would become president again. We've all heard it. In fact, there was a lot of anger towards him even running. He's been called names and even compared to Hitler. But with most of that behind us, liberals are now besides themselves as they prepare for the next 4 years. Watch.
How did we get here? How did we get here? What in the Alice in Wonderland nightmares is going on right now?
All I can say is how fucking dare you?
If you voted for that man, if you voted for anybody other than Kamala and you live in one of the states that it was, close, or if you didn't vote, fuck you.
Senate race. It's not going to happen. Republican Kevin
Go Kamala.
will be returning to the Senate.
I chose family. I chose women. I chose America. I love you.
How the fuck is this still happening? All I've ever known politically is hatred.
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with you and your mother and your sister. I'm just done with all of this.
I guess specifically picking Kamala Harris as their candidate was a bad idea, especially since they ousted Biden and they forgot what their voters wanted initially. We know for certain that Nancy Pelosi believed that Kamala could get the job done, mainly because she was an integral part of pushing Biden out of the way. She led the push from mainstream media to question the president's mental capacity. And while she never said the quiet part out loud, she whispered that Kamala needed to take over, which is why it's fitting to see her almost weeping as Kamala Harris conceded defeat in this year's presidential election. Now, I'm not real sure if she's sad that Kamala Harris lost or she's extremely depressed because Trump won. I'm sure it's one of the two, though. Now, I want to get back to Kamala Harris's concession speech because it kind of sounded like one of the best ones she's ever done. There, however, is a twist, so watch until the end for that. Watch.
Who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before.
Maybe Kamala should have just been her true self because this was actually decent. Up until the point in the speech where it actually starts to sound all too familiar. When was the last time that they had a female Democrat leading the charge? A candidate that also lost to Donald Trump? Well, it seems as if her words have actually been recycled as they copied parts of Hillary Clinton's speech and basically pasted it into Kamala's. Watch.
The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for.
Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition.
Last night, I congratulated Donald Trump and offered to work with him on behalf of our country.
Over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background.
We've spent a year and a half bringing together millions of people from every corner of our country to say with one voice that we believe that the American dream is big enough for everyone.
So at this point, we really shouldn't be surprised that even her concession speech was scripted. Her lack of authenticity led many voters to stray away from the exact same book. And now, many of us can say that we're finally turning the page. But the tears continue to flow on over from the left, as we've seen with Doug Emhoff and Tim Walz. I'll be honest with you guys, I won't miss either one of them jokers. We also have Senator Claire McCaskill, who went on MSNBC and absolutely broke down after Kamala Harris's defeat. Watch.
You okay?
I think I'm okay.
Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of her. I don't think people realize how hard it is to get to where she was. As a woman, getting elected DA, it's not easy, guys. People don't trust women to be in charge of making decisions about life and death and crime and being, frankly, a supervisor in some ways over police. Her fighting through the primary thicket of California politics to become Attorney General, really hard. I mean, this is really hard stuff. For her to be selected as vice president after what I think she would tell you was a very disappointing presidential race, where I think she kind of lost her footing and was listening too much to consultants, frankly, and it didn't really exude who she was. And then to be vice president and to step into the most difficult situation in the world, where she had to be completely loyal to Joe Biden and respectful of the fact that he had chosen her, but yet maneuver in a situation, I mean, such political skill. It is just inspiring. People who don't understand what she had to do to get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just very proud of her.
Plenty more where those tears came from, guys, as we're about to see a lot of change here. The only difference is that we're expecting tears of joy soon, especially come January.
We're also getting reaction now from the Trump campaign on this release of the special counsel Jack Smith's unsealed filing right now. This is Stephen Chung, the Trump campaign spokesman, saying that the release of the falsehood-ridden, unconstitutional J6, referring to January 6th brief immediately following Tim Walz's disastrous debate performance, is another obvious attempt by the Harris-Biden regime to undermine American democracy and interfere in this election. Deranged Jack Smith, again quoting from the spokesman in Washington, D.C., radical Democrats are hell-bent on weaponizing the Justice Department in an attempt to cling to power. President Trump is dominating, and the radical Democrats throughout the deep state are freaking out. The entire case is a partisan, unconstitutional witch hunt that should be dismissed entirely, together with all the remaining Democrat hoaxes. This again from a Trump campaign spokesman. Of course, all of this back and forth on redacted material that has now been made public from Jack Smith's investigation, born of a Supreme Court decision that said essentially actions by a president in office, you can't touch them. He is untouchable for that. It's not that black and white. Katie Chakowski here to remind me it's not that black and white, but good to go to a lawyer who knows these things than certainly an anchor reporting on these things. So, Katie, what do you make of this? A whole 165 pages out here. We get some interesting revelations, but anything new or anything that changes anything for you?
Well, I think there's really no question that this is Jack Smith's only real opportunity to try this case in the eyes of the public before the election. And that explains this robust factual section rehashing all of these things about January 6th and the aftermath that pertain to this indictment. But at the end of the day, the immunity decisions about where the line is drawn for what conduct and what evidence can be used in the prosecution of a former president is still highly unprecedented. We have the initial ruling from the Supreme Court. This is the government's first attempt to argue why their indictment as amended should stand. The defense will have a chance to respond to that. And then ultimately, the judge will make a ruling. And that ruling, if it's not favorable to the defense, is immediately appealable before this case would ever make it to a trial. So this is just a last-ditch effort, in my opinion, by Jack Smith to get these facts back in front of the American people.
Seriously, guys, they're getting desperate. And as we all know, desperate people are dangerous people. So we got to be vigilant out here. We got to do our part to keep former President Donald Trump and our country safe. You know what I mean, guys? Let's start with our own update and breakdown right here. Now, another suspicious authority figure that we really need to watch out for, the FBI. Now, according to New York Representative Elise Stefanik, the FBI is covering up Iranian election interference to tip the scales for Democrats. Now, at this point, the Congresswoman sees the federal agency as functioning like an arm of the Democratic Party. Her reasoning? Well, the FBI has been stonewalling what she called very basic, easy questions about the Bureau's knowledge of the Iran-linked hack of the Donald Trump campaign, in which data was then peddled to the Biden campaign and mainstream media news outlets. So according to Stefanik, there was politicization from the Biden-Kamala Harris administration that they were notified prior to the Trump campaign to tip the scales. Now, this was during the summer in August when the Trump campaign claimed it was hacked by Iran. In September, the Department of Justice confirmed that Iran had hacked the campaign and indicted 3 Iranian nationals for their alleged role in the scheme. Mid-September, the FBI conducted a closed briefing with Stefanik and other members of the Intelligence Committee on foreign election interference. Now, during this briefing, Stefanik said FBI officials appeared panicked when she asked them, but promised to follow up with answers. After the briefing, Stefanik wrote to FBI Director Christopher Wray demanding answers by October 7th. The FBI then said that it would deliver answers at an in-person briefing, according to Stefanik. Then they promised written answers, which never came. So really, guys, what are they hiding? Or a better question may be, who are they protecting? Because these were pretty simple questions for Stefanik. The Congresswoman wanted to know when and how the FBI learned of the Iranian hack of Donald Trump's campaign, when the FBI notified both campaigns of the hack, and whether the FBI knew who was responsible for peddling the information to the media and the Biden-Harris campaigns, and whether the FBI had used Section 702 of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act to wiretap conversations related to the hack. But did she get answers from the FBI? Nope. Which seems to be their ongoing protocol when it comes to threats against former President Donald Trump. As Stefanik herself commented, when the FBI won't answer questions, it's because you've hit on something and they're hiding something. They're corrupt to the core. Then, of course, there's the whole Trump witch hunt led by Special Counsel Jack Smith. Seriously, guys, Smith can't help himself from inserting his election interference case into the news cycle. The most recent development, additional documents that were made public. Now, according to this, the hundreds of pages of documents are Smith's appendix of exhibits in the fight over whether Donald Trump had a level of presidential immunity that negates the charges against him. Well, it all barely amounted to a splash in the headlines. As Trump campaign spokesman Steve Chang described it, radical Democrats are hell-bent on interfering in the presidential election on behalf of lying Kamala Harris. They just can't get over the fact that Donald Trump is dominating this race, and crazed liberals throughout the deep state, they're freaking out. Chang also didn't miss a chance to slam the whole Jack Smith case against Donald Trump, especially with the Supreme Court's historic decision on presidential immunity and other vital jurisprudence. He called the entire case a sham and a partisan, unconstitutional witch hunt that should be dismissed entirely, as should all of the remaining Democrat hoaxes. Now, seriously, guys, I cannot wait for this election to be over so that these people can get what's rightfully coming to them. I'm telling you guys, there's going to be a reckoning of massive proportions, and these biased organizations are at the top of the list. Do you guys agree? Do you feel like everything's falling into place and we're ready to finally welcome a new era of transparency and accountability for the country? Now, before we get there, I just want to show you guys how far The View has fallen. Now, I covered this in a previous live stream, and let me tell you guys, they are freaking out right now. And it's an episode you definitely do not want to miss, so check that one out after this video. As always, thanks for hitting the like button and subscribing. See you guys next time.